So welcome, fantastic that you're able to show up. It really helps our tournaments run smoothly when we have coaches tuning in and listening to the coach calls. And I'm excited because it means the first tournaments are right around the corner. So we will kind of get started here. And I wanted to thank the coaches for putting in the time and the effort to make your team what they are. To introduce myself, I'm Chris Simonson. I'm the new FTC program coordinator for High Tech Kids. Norm is also here tonight helping out behind the scenes. And I'm really looking forward to meeting more of the coaches and things and talking throughout the year. Norm knows so many of you, and I'm just getting started. So you can always feel free to reach out and ask questions and things like that if they don't get answered this evening. So Norm, if you can advance our slides, that would be great. Could go a couple slides ahead there. Want to thank our sponsors. Before we get too deep in, we would not be able to provide these tournaments without the assistance of these fantastic companies. So to any of you that happen to work at them, thank you very much. And we look forward to working with them in the future. All right, let's get started. So with our qualifying tournaments, we're going to continue to be fully in person unless something changes. We're generally back to our pre-COVID tournament conditions. Friends and family are welcome in the judging rooms and the pit area. Everyone is still required to wear safety glasses if they are in the pit area. So please let families know if they're going to be traveling through that area. We are going to continue to do our post-COVID thing where we're not going to be providing loaner safety glasses, but we will have safety glasses and side shields for sale, $5 for a pair. So if for some reason a team doesn't have enough or somebody's forgotten something, that is a possibility. Okay. We're going to continue to follow the CDC and Minnesota Department of Health guidelines. So at this point, we're continuing with face masks being optional. Okay, now we're to the really critical stuff. So if you have not yet done the High Tech Kids demographic survey, please go onto our website and under the required forms tab, you can fill that out electronically. You need to do this. It is due the Monday before your event, and it really saves us a lot of time if we don't have to chase you down for it. Just need one form submitted for your entire team, and you only need to submit this for your first tournament. We will transfer it over from tournament to tournament. We really need this form because this is the information our sponsors ask us when we're looking for grants and things like that to help keep tournament fees low and team fees low. This is the information we need to provide. It also determines how many pins your team is going to receive. Also make sure that you've got the consent and release forms done on the first dashboard. So this is not through the High Tech Kids. This needs to be filled out for every coach, mentor, and team member. And there is a new express system that if you've logged into your dashboard lately, a little pop-up will come up and walk you through the express enrollment. And then you can print out a PDF of that consent and release, or you can print out that form, I should say, and bring it to the tournament. If for some reason you have a team member who can't access that electronic form, then you can print out a paper version of it and bring it in for those students that weren't able to do it electronically. And Vicki just popped up in the chat. What was that? Was there a question?
Can you repeat that last form that the students, I missed what the students have to do?
Yeah, so as a coach, you can invite members to your team on the first dashboard. So this is not the High Tech Kids website. but on your first dashboard where you registered your teams, you can enroll those students in your team, and it'll allow you to create a roster of all your team members once they have signed the consent and release. And for the younger students, their parents will need to fill out the form for them and things. If you have much older students, upper high school, then they can do it themselves. But if for some reason students aren't able or parents aren't able to access the electronic version of the consent release, then you can print out a paper version from our High Tech Kids website. We have a link to that form, just the paper form. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, so there's
just a quick.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got one more quick thing. So there is not just like last year, there is not a separate consent or release for High Tech Kids. The one that you do on First Site covers everything, but the demographic survey is separate because, as I understand it, you guys can't get the demographic data from First, so you have to create your own.
Exactly. So any demographic information you submit to First does not come to us. And that's why we require that separate survey done through our website. But the consent and release works for both the First, and we can use that as our consent and release. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Got it, thanks.
All right. So the other thing to remember to do before your tournament is any video submissions that your team might want to submit. This is a really great way for a team to increase their chances of winning an award. We don't always even have submissions from tournament to tournament. And so if your team has a chance to do this, and especially if you've got a rookie team, this is a great thing for them to do. Or if you've got a larger team and you need some activities for some of the students, this is a great thing for them to do. And all the details for this are in the game manual as far as the requirements and things. But once they've created the 60-second video for either of these topics, they can submit it through our website. We have a JOT form that is available. It is due on the Sunday before your tournament, and we have a hard deadline of midnight. So make sure that that gets submitted in time if you want to compete for that award. And they would just upload that video using this JOT form, and it'll come right to us. We judge those before the tournament and then have the award at the tournament. Any questions regarding that? We do not use First's feedback form, so we don't have a link to that here. We have a feedback form that we automatically generate for each team, and actually that's the route that First is going to start to go anyway. First is not going to have the they had an optional team feedback form that teams could fill out ahead of time, and they're looking at moving away from that and just having every team get a feedback form at the end of the tournament. So you don't need to worry about that at all if you've heard of those. All right, so I want to go over a couple changes for the season. Some of you may or may not be aware that First is officially allowing the use of artificial intelligence for creating the content in the engineering portfolio and for code for the robot. They're treating it like it is 3D printing or CAD. It's not required, and teams aren't going to be judged based on their use or non-use of it, but it is another tool that teams can use and are allowed to use. The one thing we're asking, and our judges are asking, and First is asking, is that if teams are using something like ChatGPT, that they're giving credit in their portfolio to that. And so down at the bottom of this slide is an example that First gave, where they just write portfolio content created by, team number and ChatGPT. So our judges are being trained that this is allowed and to not be biased against teams one way or the other in terms of their use or non-use. But if teams are using it, they may get questions from the judges like, well, what did you learn from using it? How did it help you, or what was difficult about using it? So again, it's another tool that if a team used it, the judges may be asking them questions regarding that. Any questions in terms of the use of the AI? All right. Well, hopefully lots of teams are designing the drones because it's been pretty fun. I've had a chance to go to some of the league meets that have already started, and there were a number of teams, and it's a big crowd pleaser when the drones fire out of the robots. But just some reminders, because this has been one of the areas of a lot of questions that have been coming up and being asked of FIRST. And so if you're not aware of it yet, there is a document that FIRST put out called Is It Legal? That is linked on the FIRST resources page. And it has great examples of the key factors that allow a drone to be considered legal by the inspectors versus illegal. And I've put down some of the main points that they're covering with that. And make sure that the drone is coming with the robot to the inspection. It is one of the things that's going to be getting looked at. Our tournaments, we are looking at having like a piece of outdoor carpet or something to use as a landing zone that will have already pre-taped off so that we can have consistency from tournament to tournament. We don't have that exact item yet. We'll be setting that up in the next week or so, but be aware that that may look a little different than what teams are expecting. It won't be as slippery as a gym floor, but that actually could be helpful to the teams when they're tossing that airplane. But we didn't want to have to rely on volunteers measuring out those distances every single time, hence the look at having a standardized landing zone for each of our tournaments. Any questions in terms of that? Any questions that have come up with your teams in terms of the drones that might help you to get answered? All right, just a reminder that in order to be considered for any of the judged awards, a team does need to present a portfolio. It is at this point the only documentation that is required for those awards, other than if you want to submit for the control award. That's a separate form that we also have linked on our website. The portfolio is the 15-page summary of everything about the team and their what they've been working on for the season. The cover sheet is an additional 16th page, but please make sure your team is familiar with the requirements for the cover sheet so that it doesn't have additional information on it that could have it disqualified as a cover sheet. So really reading through that game manual to make sure that it fits within it. It can include all sorts of different things within the topic of the season in terms of your outreach, in terms of your design evolution, how you ran team meetings, what each team member did. You know, it really is the team's resume. You need to have at least one printed copy. We're not collecting electronic versions at all. So you must have at least one paper copy at the tournament. It's going to be left with the judges during that morning interview time that we'll be talking about in a little bit. And you're not going to get it back at the end of that interview time. And so it's really highly recommended that the team bring a second printed copy that they can keep in their pits to be able to show judges during the afternoon pit judging sessions. If they want to refer to something or reference something, having that second copy will be very useful for them. Okay. Some more things about the portfolio has taken the place of the notebook. So everything pretty much has been removed from FIRST's game manuals in terms of a notebook being any sort of requirement. Now, teams can still be creating a notebook that they can use as additional documentation, but they cannot bring the notebook to the morning judging session. They can have it in their pits, in their pit area to use as reference when judges come through later in the afternoon. They can use it to sort of have additional documentation of the things they're discussing with those judges. And so no, even the Think Award at this point does not require the engineering notebook in any way, shape, or form. Those additional documentation that teams have can be in any format that they want, and it's not a requirement to win an award. All right. If there's no questions about that portfolio, talk a little bit about the state championship. This year, we're going to return to the River Center and the Roy Wilkins Auditorium. And the dates are going to be that Friday, February 16th and Saturday, February 17th. We will only be allowing experienced judges and referees to work the state championship. So they've at least been doing one other tournament before they get to that. And it is the 2-day event. Judging, inspections, and practice rounds are going to be on that Friday. And all the qualifier matches, alliance selection, pit judging, and things happen on Saturday. And with our November tournaments, at this point in time, we are planning to have 5 teams advancing from each of the Prior Lake tournaments. All right. So as you're prepping for the tournament, it's good to kind of check in with your team. Are they, here are the things that are expected of them as they're talking to the judges, that they should be able to explain their team strategies. So what technical strategies did they have? What non-technical outreach kind of strategies or organizational strategies did they have? They should be able to talk about their team goals, how they planned, what outreach work they did, what mentoring they sought and other support that they sought out. Did they take any visits to any companies? Who came to see them and taught them something or learned something from them? They should be able to discuss if they're doing any autonomous mode. And the Control Award is a great place to share that out. And going through the process of filling out that form can kind of help them think about what they did with that. And they should be able to describe how they built the robot, the control systems they decided to do, why did they make the design decisions that they did? Did they use sensors or decide not to use sensors? Why? How did they iterate their design over time? These are all things that the judges are going to be asking them about, and they should be prepared to discuss. If they fabricated any 3D printed parts, again, that's not a requirement, but it is something that they can discuss. We do have a special Minnesota award offered by Stratasys that centers around 3D printed parts that they have fabricated. And encourage your teams to talk about their failures and how that helped them grow, because that's really an important part of the engineering process, is those failures and what came out of it. So have them prepared to go ahead and talk about that stuff. All right, let's go over kind of our general day and what to expect from the different parts of it. The schedule is available at this point on our website for the tournament, for the Prior Lake tournaments. So you can go there and click on this as well. We'll soon have our schedules for the morning that will be up, but teams can arrive at 7:20 to enter into the building and get loaded in, set up their pit areas. We're going to begin our robot inspections and our judging interviews right at 8 o'clock. And then practice rounds start at 10. With the robot inspections, we'll be talking more about that, but they may need to get re-inspected, and so kind of planning for that throughout that morning and when they have those extra gaps. The judging interview time is really, really important. They need to show up to that on time. Robot inspection can be fit in, or re-inspection can be fit in whenever there's availability at the robot inspection area. Driver's meeting, we expect to start right at 10:30, and then our opening ceremonies at 11 a.m. Our qualification matches for there'll be some of them before lunch. So for the Saturday Prior Lake tournament, we have a slightly different lunchtime than we do at most of our tournaments, because it is a much bigger tournament. We've got FRC, FLL, we've got everybody there that day. And so FTC will be taking their lunch break at 11:45, but we'll run as many qualification matches in that first 45 minutes as we can. And then we will resume at 12:45 on Saturday. Sunday will be our normal noon to 1 lunch break that everybody takes.
Question.
Our pit judge, go ahead.
On the judging, in the past, they've always done them by team number, which means older teams always generally go first, and sometimes judges aren't there for the right at time, and then that team can get cheated out of time because they always stop at the right time because it's building. I'm just wondering, is that going to be the case? Are we going to randomize that? How, or what's the plan for this year? Same as last year?
The plan at this point is same as last year, but
Okay.
definitely will make note of those concerns, and hopefully we'll try to minimize the judges being late. They are supposed to arrive well before. And I know that especially if we get a snowstorm or things, it can affect things, but hopefully we'll be encouraging judges to be on time. But, please feel free, if you run into that situation with your team's judging, please let me know your concerns, send me an email afterward or whatever, and I will work hard to make sure that we're getting those judges there so everybody gets the same amount of interview time as everybody else. All right, our pit judging will continue after lunch, or start up after lunch, and then our line selections at 3, and our semifinal and final matches hopefully around 3:30, with our closing ceremonies around 4:30. And that time may, change a little bit one way or the other, especially that late afternoon time period can be a little bit flexible depending on how fast the teams are coming up to get their runs done, and how many have to go, best 2 out of 3 versus, 2 matches, 1 in a row. So, all right, we will dig into the schedule a little bit more in terms of details. So for the morning judging session, please make sure the team has their copy of their engineering portfolio. If they're submitting a control award form, they need to bring that to the judging session. We don't collect those when you check in the morning. They'll hand those directly to the judges as they walk into the interview room, and make sure they have their robot. And the first 5 minutes is for them to give a presentation if they have one ready. Otherwise, judges will just start digging right into questions. And the question time period has a limit of 5 minutes, or of 10 minutes. So that 5-minute presentation time is pretty hard and fast, and that allows the judges to keep things on time with being able to get in all the questions that they want to ask during that follow-up 10 minutes. For your robot and field inspection, you need to make sure you've got your robot, the driver hub, any drones that you're planning. So let's say your team has 3 different drone designs that they might want to try out throughout the tournament. They need to, if they're different, distinct designs, they need to bring a sample of each of those designs to the inspection. Now, if they've made the exact same design and made 5 copies of it because they're worried it's going to get destroyed, they don't need to bring every single copy of it. And then as well, bring the team element to make sure that that is going to fall within the specifications outlined in the game manual.
And the
So just,
drones, and you have to
what's
have
that?
a red drone and a blue drone.
Correct. You need to have a red drone and a blue drone because you need to have it match your alliance color.
And do both of those need to be at the inspection, or if they're the same?
If they're exact same design, I think you're fine, but it's safer to bring it just from a perspective, especially if there's a question about the paper color at all. Not everybody has access to, exactly the same colors of paper, and there's not strong recommendations other than a reasonable person needs to look at that piece of paper and say it falls within the red. Clearly somebody would describe that as being red. Pink is okay. And same with the blue. So it's a good idea to bring each of them to it just to make sure that the color is going to pass and that they don't run into problems when they hit their first qualifier match. Just remember the inspectors are not really looking for ways to disqualify robots. They're just trying to make sure that these robots are safe when they're out there and they're as reliable as the team can have. They want to make sure that everybody's following the same rules and that it's going to be a fair tournament. And if your team is having trouble passing, the inspectors are going to work with your team, maybe find another team that can help you get things up to specifications, more veteran team if you've got a rookie team. But the goal is the inspectors want to see every single robot be field worthy in order to run through their qualifier matches. We really want every team to be able to compete. All right. Any other questions with those morning interviews and that morning schedule? Okay, once we're done with our practice matches, we're going to have a drivers meeting. And it's the team drivers that are going to meet with the referees, and the head referee is really going to explain how queuing is going to work at that particular venue and how the matches will run, any rule updates that might have been missed with teams. And that's when the driver will also receive the actual match schedule. And if you haven't been to a tournament before, the match schedule doesn't have times on it. It just has the order of the matches. So it helps to have, a reliable student in charge of keeping track of which match is currently running so that they can warn your team to be moving to the queuing line and make sure that you're on time. During those qualification matches, there is also at the same time pit judging going on. And so you're going to see groups of judges visiting the teams in their pit area to ask more questions to expand upon the information that was shared during those morning interviews. Now, teams need to remember that their match play is the priority. So if they have a match coming up and the judge shows up at their pit, it's okay to politely tell the judges that they'll be back later as soon as they finish their match play. Please try to have an appropriate number of students in the pit whenever you're not actively competing, because those judges really have a limited amount of time in which to interview each team. And if they come around to your pit and you're not out on, you're not playing a match, you're not in the queuing line, but nobody's in your pit, they're not going to be able to interview you. And it's not going to be their job to hunt down your team. Your team needs to make themselves available to those judges. All right, judges will return, but if they run out of time to interview your team, they run out of time to interview your team. So please remind the students to be there. All right. So once we've gone through our qualification matches, we have the finalist alliance selection. And we have a great video that was put together by one of our longtime volunteers. It's available on our website, but I've also included it on this slideshow. And so if you have a team that's never been through alliance selection, you may want to watch this video together before the tournament, just so they have a sense of what's going to happen. It also gets explained really clearly at the beginning of alliance selection, but I was the kind of kid that liked to know as much as possible beforehand. So if you have students like that, this is a worthwhile video to watch. As soon as the finalist matches are completed, we are going to move right into our award ceremony. We're going to continue with our post-COVID stuff of not having teams come down to the field. We're not doing the high five line or anything like that. We, at the end of the award ceremony, can have one representative from each team come down to collect the award. And we will have the results from the tournament available the next day on the first site. But we do like to have teams there for that award ceremony, because any team could win one of the many awards. And we are cheering for each of those teams when things are announced. And it's always a bummer when a team wins an award, but isn't there to celebrate that, that experience. So if at all possible, please, even if it feels like your robot had a horrible day, there are a lot of other ways to win awards and recognition at the tournament. Any questions in terms of that? All right. So I want to point out a couple of other opportunities that students have. So the Dean's List Award through FIRST is recognizing the leadership and dedication of some of the FTC team members. As a coach, you can nominate up to 2 of your 10th or 11th grade students from your team. The nominations for this award are due on December 15th, regardless of when your team qualifier is. It has nothing to do with that. It's everybody's nominations are due by December 15th. Then we have interviews that happen in January, and we will choose the finalists and announce them at the state championship. And finalists will represent Minnesota at the World Championships, even if their team does not advance past the state tournament, or even, you know, that's something that's a separate award. So please feel free to get your nominations in anytime before December 15th. All right, another award to be aware of is High Tech Kids Purple Gear Award. And this is an award we present to teams to recognize the outreach work that they've done. And so teams who have participated and helped us in 3 different High Tech Kids events and 3 different outreach events within their community can report that information to us through our website. Again, there's some detailed information as to what qualifies, the criteria and things on our website. The applications are accepted at any point in time. So, you know, some teams did a lot of work over the summer and they are already submitting their applications. But if your team is planning to, you know, do some of these volunteer or outreach events this fall and into the winter, that's fine. We can accept that application at any point in time that they've completed the requirements for that. And they will receive a certificate and this 3D printed trophy. And they will also send you a little something via email for you to add into your portfolio. These are the teams that won or received it last year. So yeah, go ahead.
Do they have to do 3 High Tech Kids events and 3 additional outreach events? Or is that an and or?
Yes, it's an and.
So, okay, got it.
Yep. Any other questions regarding the Purple Gear Award? All right. It's a pretty cool looking award. All right. So another opportunity for students is our Stratasys scholarships. And students can self-nominate themselves. This is designed also for 10th and 11th grade students. And they would write a little online essay. They do need to be, current members of a Minnesota FTC team, but they can qualify to win up to $250 scholarship. So this is something to make your older students aware of, and something that they can do all on their own. All the information is on our website as well. All right. I got to get in my shameless plug for volunteers. So a lot of our coaches also make great volunteers as judges, referees, and some of the other technical behind the scenes things that we need done. Also, if your team is working with a company locally, you could also help recruit some of those people to come and volunteer for us. Or if you have parents or other mentors and things who want to help us out, we always are in need of more volunteers and really need to grow our volunteer pool. We have wonderful, wonderful volunteers with the FTC program, and people come back year after year, but there's, always some attrition, and some of those volunteers need a day off too. So a lot of them, work so many different tournaments. It's astonishing. And other people, it's fine if you can only make one tournament. That's enough. We'll welcome you in no matter how much or how little you want to do. We have on our High Tech Kids site, we have our volunteer tab, which is purple. And you can fill out a volunteer interest form if you haven't already done that this year. And that will allow you to self-select the jobs that you're interested in doing, as the programs you're interested in helping with. I'm hoping you'll sign up for FTC, but there's also opportunities with FLL or with our FLL Explore younger students. And it allows you to select what dates work for you and leave any other notes. So even if you're putting down a Saturday and a Sunday on a given weekend, but you only want to work one of those days, you can just leave a note and we'll honor that request in terms of scheduling. So you guys are coming to the November tournament, but we're already in the process of setting up our volunteers for that and are probably going to come up a little bit short. So anybody who might be able to help out in some way, that'd be great. All right. Any questions in terms of that? All right, well, thank you. And we will stay here a little bit to answer any additional questions that people feel they haven't had answered, or you can also email me, chris@hightechkids.org, with any questions that arise after we're done with this session. So always happy to answer those. Thank you.